This is absolutely Essendon. It's our latest edition of Hot or Not, where we take a deep dive into the latest Essendon Warrior. Well, maybe not a deep dive. Sometimes it's kiddie pool-esque, but nevertheless, we apply the spotlight, have a look at how they're going for a great club. Now, the player in question today is Nicholas Martin. We're going to have a look at Martin. Yes, Nikolai. We're going to have a look at his contributions. Very important player for the team. Do you want to kick us off, DT? Have you got some background about how he came to the club? Because he was he looking at West Coast?
He was. I think he was on West Coast list. Might have been. Can't remember. Don't care. But he did find his way to the Bombers in the most unusual of manners. He was a supplementary period selection, which is basically guys that have not been drafted, missed out on the pre-season and national draft and are floating around. And if your club has a couple of vacant spots on their list, they can select uncontracted players from anywhere in this supplementary selection period. And Nicholas Martin was up for that. I think there was another young Indigenous player at the time they were also looking at. Actually, might have even been Wanganeen who was in that group. But anyway, so he was picked on the strength of a couple of impressive pre-season games and debuted against Geelong a couple of seasons back in a game where we got absolutely smashed.
We did.
But he killed 5 goals in his debut, had 27 possessions, and has not looked back since then, and has been quite a remarkable story. And he would be amongst some of the better players in the AFL now. So
he would be. It beggars belief how you go from not being able to get drafted, not getting any attention, and then come in through the back door as such. Achieve what he's achieved. I'm staggered. Staggered.
And look, not only achieved selection, which in its own is an incredible thing, but as I said, has become one of the certainly one of the best players at Essendon, and arguably, as it stands today, must be in the running for at least selection in the All-Australian squad. He may not make the final team, but he would certainly be in the thinking for the squad. So on that basis, let's have a look at his season.
Let's go into
to
the
date.
Stats, shall we?
So he's played 13 matches. He's played every game for the Bombers this year. He's averaging 29.8 disposals, which is ranked elite. Now, as is always, we need to stress that these rankings are based on the position they play or generally play by comparison with other players in the same position. So he's elite based on being a half-back defender. So maybe those midfield, if he was in the midfield, that may not be elite. I don't know for sure. It depends. But as a defender, he's rated elite.
That's
on
an
disposals.
important distinction. Thank you.
So he's averaging 20 kicks a game, which is also rated elite. Handball 9.8 per game, which is again elite. And marks above average with 6.8. Tackles 1.8. Never been a strength of his, which is actually average. And 541.9 metres gained, which is elite. So overall, that's pretty impressive, you've got to say. But let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. I mean, come on. Are those numbers flattering? Do those numbers truly reflect Nic Martin's value on the football field? Or are those a little inflated based upon the fact that he has a free run off the half-back line? He does kick the ball in from points scored. He gets those stats added to his. So you tell me, how do you see his season so far?
Well, it's interesting because he's playing a different role to the last 2 seasons. And so I think it does show in the stats here the key difference that it's made. But I suppose he's been a little well, his role has been a little divisive amongst Essendon fans because there's some that say, no, should have left him where he was.
Which was where?
Around the wing area?
Wing half
pushing forward, kicking 1 or 2 goals. Yeah. I mean, he did last night in the game. We're recording this after
he went forward,
the Essendon-Carlton game. Where he was moved forward in that last quarter,
correct.
And kicked a couple of goals because he's not a bad shot at goal, or having him down the back line, accumulating possessions, acting as a bit of a loose man, would you say? So I don't know how I feel about it. I tend to think he might be a bit wasted back there, and I think you made a mention of in our last episode, which was the review of the Essendon-Carlton game, where Jai Menzies went to the back line and accumulated quite a few possessions, that maybe it's not as difficult a role as we might be making it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, the half-back position is and has always been probably the easiest position on the ground to play. And I mean, not to say that Nic Martin hasn't done a fantastic job playing off that half-back flank. I mean, Nick Dacos made that position his own in the first few seasons of his career.
Yeah. What is it with Nick's and that position?
No idea. It's just a coincidence, Smoking. It's just a coincidence.
Well, thanks. You normally take something trivial and inconsequential like that and just run with it.
Yeah, I'm not going to run with that.
No, okay.
There's a lot of half-back flankers in the AFL. 2 of them are called Nick. But anyway,
I can come up with another one.
I'm sure. I'll let you think about that for a moment. But yeah, Nic Martin coming off a half-back flank gets a lot of the ball. Not sure he delivers it
Nick
particularly.
Blakey?
Yeah, okay.
Screw you, man. Screw you.
Keep it coming.
Right.
Keep it coming. So Nick Larkey?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. No, back to the point. So Martin gets a lot of the pill. The Carlton game, which is the most recent performance and the freshest in our collective minds. He had a pretty decent game. He was the highest rated player on the ground in the Carlton game in terms of fantasy points. But he got a lot of the ball, but he was delivering it at 57% efficiency.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. Nic Martin is a bit of a turnover beast. And whilst he does a lot of great things, he is also guilty for handing the ball back to the opposition on many occasions. And I think that is the weakness in his game. Now, we talked about Jai Menzies playing a similar role. I don't know why that came about. That may have come about in the Carlton game because of Redmond's absence and they needed someone to bounce off that half-back line. But Jai Menzies, I mean, with all due respect to Jai, he's not considered to be amongst the elite footballers in the AFL. Played a game as good as what Nic Martin's played off that half-back line. So it does show you that it's not the most difficult position on the field to play. I mean, I think Menzies had 20-plus possessions, 9 marks. I mean, as a small forward in his career, he's never gotten close to that many marks and possessions. So it tells you that you get a bit of an open checkbook playing off the half-back flank.
Right.
So Nic Martin, look, he's done it really well. But, my issue with Nic Martin is when he goes forward, inevitably he scores goals.
Yeah.
And are we robbing Peter to pay Paul?
Well, I only say that when you look at our forward line and the struggles that we're having at the moment, maybe he's more valuable down there.
I would actually fully agree with that. And again, on the strength that a goodish player can be a dominant player off the half-back line. So why put one of your best players in a position where, of course, he's going to get a lot of the ball, but is he really adding a lot of value? And that's where I think we've got to sort of rethink the whole Nic Martin scenario. I mean, I'm sure the coaching panel at Essendon are thinking they've pulled off a masterstroke putting him back on the half-back line. But again, the Jai Menzies factor, Jai going back to the same position and performing as well as he did, shows that, look, pretty much any decent AFL player should be able to do okay playing in that position.
Yeah.
It's the real superstars that can take a midfield position or a forward line position and make it their own. And the fact that Nic Martin does score goals often when he goes forward, to me, it's a no-brainer. He should be playing off a wing or half-forward flank. That's where I reckon his best position is.
Okay, so let's summarise all this. Let's synthesise it and come up with our ratings, because I love the guy.
Yeah, and you do, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
And what I love most is that he has spent not a scintilla of time working on his hairstyle.
No.
He is just...
He's had a bit of a fade done, I think.
Mate. Did you see him last night?
It's not good, is it?
He looks like an 18th century cobbler.
And that half-grown moustache is a worry. No offence, Nick, of course. Keep working on it, mate.
But I love him. I love his humility. I love his goal celebration. I'm giving him...
What's his goal celebration?
You know, the...
Oh, the nipple rub.
His eyes. No, there was no nipples involved. That was our interpretation.
Right.
So I'm giving him...
Gee, this will be interesting.
7.5.
What?
Yes.
Fine. Okay. Well, that's your prerogative, I suppose.
Of course it's my prerogative. Thank you for sharing that I have a prerogative.
You do.
Jeez.
I'm just surprised. I thought because you loved him so much you were going to go crazy on him. But anyway, I'm going to give Nic Martin an 8.
Is that right?
I'm going to give Nic Martin an 8.
Okay.
I think he's been pretty good all year. He's a good player. I mean, look, let's be honest. There's no downside with Nic Martin. He cost us absolutely nothing.
No, but is that a metric in this assessment?
No, look,
is there a bang for buck component to this scoring, is there?
Well, I think that has to be taken into consideration because, it's only upside, right? You've not given away 2 first-round draft picks for him. If Nic Martin went onto the open market today, he would attract at least a first-round draft pick. So, the fact that we got him for zilch is a bonus.
All right,
and to be fair, I guess this is where Dodoro has had a lot of success. He's terrible at selecting first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
But finding these sort of diamonds in the rough, he's done
Durham.
well. Durham. D'Ambrosio, of course, who Dodoro will take credit for, who's now doing very well at Hawthorn. But, Menzies, another mid-season draft pick. Herr Schnelling, you might remember.
Schnelling.
God bless him.
Where is he?
He's over in Adelaide.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he plays in the Sandful now.
Oh,
we miss you, Herr Schnelling.
We do.
So Dodoro's done well with those picks. I think Martin, it's only good. 8 out of 10 for me. You gave him 7.5?
7.5. Only because a few of those turnovers just cost him a little bit.
Laughable.
Okay. All right.
Elite.
All right, okay.
All right, guys, that's it. Give us your votes. Look, please don't hesitate to disagree with him.
Yes.
And, just give us your score out of 10. 10 being incredible, like incredible as if it's never going to happen. So stop throwing all these 9s and 10s around, guys.
Yes.
6 being average.
Yes.
And anything below 6 should be playing for our VFL side.
Right.
All right.
Is that what it is?
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thanks again. We'll be back soon with another Hot or Not. Thank you. Bye for now.
Cheers.